Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host and founder of Alzheimer Speaks, Lori LeBay. So welcome this beautiful July day. This July 14th is my folks' anniversary, and it just really makes me miss them. My mom died of dementia a year ago this February. My dad's been gone since '01, and boy, it's those family relationships. They just never, ever cease. To amaze me, the power of the feelings of connection. And part of what we're going to be talking about today is how to stay connected using technology. But before I introduce our guests, I always just like to give a little background as to Alzheimer Speaks, because we always are getting new listeners. And so for those of you that are new to our show, Alzheimer Speaks is an advocacy-based program that is providing multiple platforms just to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. Going through this for 30 years with my mom, I just really felt the need for connection and to hear multiple voices and the creativity and see what others are doing with their skill sets to improve the lives with dementia. We believe truly that by joining forces and sharing knowledge and just having these everyday conversations like we're going to have here today, that we're going to be able to remove the stigmas and the myths attached to memory loss and help all those living with this disease live with purpose and still be engaged in life, still have a full, wonderful, wonderful life. We always invite our listeners to be part of our show, and you can do that two ways. You can call in at 714-364-4757. That's 714-364-4757, or you can use the chat box too, and I'll be checking that routinely and pulling in comments and questions throughout the show. So again, please feel free to participate that way. I would also like to ask for your continued support in terms of liking our station here and sharing it on your Facebook page with all of your friends there, your Google circles, if you've got a Twitter tribe, if you're connected to LinkedIn. What I have found in my 30-year journey with my own family was so many people were in need of information but didn't feel safe to reach out and grab it, didn't really even know where it was. And so the more we can push this information out to people, the more comfortable they're going to feel that it's the norm and that it's okay and that they're not so different and they're not so isolated. When I go out and speak, I can talk to a group of 1,000 people and ask them 6 or 7 questions in terms of their connection to this disease. And if there's 5 people left standing, that's high. And everyone looks around shocked because they had no idea that their friend or their neighbor was dealing with this issue as well. So we really have to, we got to get it out of the closet, and we have to get people comfortable talking about this. The disease is nothing that anyone should be embarrassed about. And through your likes, through your clicks, I have to thank you all because you got Alzheimer Speaks named as the #1 influencer online by ShareCare and Dr. Oz, and that would not have happened without you behind us. So again, I really thank you, and it means a lot to have your support and to work collaboratively together. Those little clicks that just take us a few seconds are much more powerful than you can ever imagine. I also like to just let people know if they've got a story to tell, maybe they're a family caregiver, maybe there's somebody living with the disease, maybe they've devised a product or written a book or a song, please reach out to me and talk to me. I would love to feature you on the show. This is about leveling the playing field so everyone's voice is heard. We all have so much to to contribute in our own way. And I think using our own skills and talents just increase our passion, and we just move things along so much faster. So I'd love to help spread the word of what it is you're doing and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And, maybe it'll help the next guy out there. I also like to just do a few shout-outs to a few organizations that people might not know of. Everyone knows pretty much of the Alzheimer's Association, but a lot of people don't know that there's actually an international association of all the Alzheimer's Association called Alzheimer's Disease International. And that is a great organization. It's someplace where you can really find global information and research. You can also find the closest Alzheimer's Association to you. So it's kind of a one-stop shop there. There is also some alternative associations like the Alzheimer's Foundation. There is the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. That one works more on alternatives, so more holistic. So it'll be meditation and diet and exercise, things like that. And then we've got specific associations for certain types of dementia, like the Lewy Body Association and the Association for Frontal Temporal Degeneration, or known as FTD. And then many people have problems with speech. And you can go to the National Aphasia Association, and that is spelled APHASIA, APHASIA. And also, people are always asking me about clinical trials, and you can go to alzheimersstudy.com/60.htm. That's Alzheimer's Studies. So there's two S's in the middle, .com/60.htm. And there you can really help reshape Alzheimer's treatments. Alzheimer's is a battle for so many family and friends, and this is a great way to be able to help out and truly make a difference. In fact, our next show we're going to have a doctor who's going to be coming in talking about trials and things there too. So that'll be great resource. The Purple Angel Project, for those of you that are not familiar with the Purple Angel Project, go to alzheimersspeaks.com, and on the front page you can scroll down and find something, or you can go right to our About page and find a tab on the Purple Angel. But that is the new global symbol for dementia. It's in over 17 countries. It costs you no money. It takes a very little time for you to be able to implement using that, and it really is about getting people just to say, what is that? So that you can have a conversation about the disease. And that's really as simple as it gets. So we are really looking forward to our guest here today. His name is Patrick Talley, and I got the pleasure of talking with him briefly a couple of weeks ago, and he was in the technology field and selling technology for over 32 years, and then he retired. And then after about 5 months, he said he realized that he could really make a difference by creating some apps. Just like he had made a difference when he wrote his books, he really enjoys helping people. It fills his soul. And so now Patrick has been working like crazy and spending his savings to help people through technology. He has 2 young adult children who are very happy that their dad is still crazy and still creating stuff. Patrick says he is a blessed man, one who believes that we are all here to create ripples in the pond in whatever we do, and he wants his ripples to be positive. And I think you're going to hear what a wonderful impact they're making. So welcome, Patrick. How are you today?
Thanks, Lori. Doing great. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we're doing. And as I'm kind of becoming more and more familiar with this longevity space and this memory care space, it's really kind of exciting for me to find people like yourself who are already out there leading the charge, making a difference. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we're doing.
Well, you're doing some cool stuff, and we love just highlighting people that are doing neat things and really out there trying to make a difference with people, as a whole. And so I so appreciate the efforts that you're making. I also want to let people know too that we have Harry Urban with us, and I'm just going to pull Harry in to say hi quick. And how you doing, Harry?
I'm doing fine. Good morning, everybody.
Well, good. For those of you that don't know Harry has been living with dementia for, over 11 years now, I believe it is. And he is just an amazing advocate for the cause and helping people just really learn how to live fully with this disease. And so I'm going to put Harry on mute for a little while, but I'll be pulling him in just to get his feedback on the conversation here with Patrick, because Harry just has great insights that are always wonderful to hear. So Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about what does technology or apps, what do they do? Maybe start with what is an app, because a lot of people don't even know what an app is. So let's start with the basics with that.
Sure, I can always do the basics well. So an app is software. Just like when I first started out in my career, all the software ran on really large systems. And then over the course of the last 35 years or so, the systems have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller, and now these systems are held in our hands, and we call them smartphones and tablets. And so an app really is just a piece of software, like your bank uses to close their books and such, except in this case it's a very light, very small application, which is what app stands for, that resides on your smartphone, or your tablet. And that's kind of I like most things in my life, I didn't have the direction and the intent to end up in this conversation with this audience. I am a creative guy, and I like to make stuff and create, and that started, I don't know how long ago, but certainly 15 years ago with photography, and then I wrote some books about parenting and relationships and stuff that I felt like I had something to offer. And when I retired, a friend of mine, actually on Facebook, posted a message that asking, does anyone know how to catch a voice recording off of a phone, because his mother had passed and he didn't want to lose a message she'd left for him. And I was sad for Jay that he lost his mom, and I was sad for all of us that we're still in this day of technology losing people and losing their stories. And the old axiom of every time an old person dies, the library burns down, I think is the way it's said. And it pained me that we're still dealing with that when we walk around every day with these devices in our pockets and purses that really are created, for recording stories. And so I launched my first app and failed miserably at retirement. And the app is called Stories, Etc. That's just very simply Stories, Etc. And what I did, Lori, is I kind of asked the question, why aren't people doing this already? If you have the capability on the phone or tablet to do this, why aren't folks doing it? And I came up with two kind of messages from my mom. One was, I wouldn't know where to start, and the other was, I wouldn't know what to say. And so I thought a starting point and a way of helping people with what to say. So Stories, Etc. is a free app which you can go to the App Store and download, and it's loaded with 100 questions. 10 questions in 10 chapters of your life, starting at your parents and great-grandparents, or grandparents, great-grandparents, and parents, then kind of early childhood, neighborhood, school years, all the way through hopes, dreams, ambitions. We even have some fun questions in there, like what's the stupidest thing you've ever done in your life? What was the biggest mistake you ever made? What was your greatest success? What are you most proud of? So lots of questions that offer insight. And you just click on the question on the app, and the question is either read via text or it's in audio. And I have both, because some folks are hearing impaired and some folks are sight impaired. And then you just answer the question with the app itself, with that smartphone or tablet. And by that, I mean you just talk into it in audio or shoot a little mini video. And the text is there, but nobody really uses the text because it just takes too long to type all this stuff. And from that, we also had a little piece in there where you can download photos off of your tablet or phone's camera roll and tell a story about those. And the idea I had there was that my mom knows who some of these people are from the turn of the century and the teens and the 20s, but we don't know. My siblings and I don't know who those people are in those photos. So we take pictures from the photo albums, and then Mom talks about them, and we create kind of a slideshow. And so that's kind of was the launching point. And in all transparency, I really didn't have the notion of doing something in the memory care space. I had the notion of helping everyone tell their story, because I think everyone's got a story to tell, and I think all of our descendants are going to be interested in our stories. But about a year into the app being released, I look at every help question when someone gets stuck on the app. I look at them to make sure that we've created something that's not confusing. And this group kept asking some really interesting questions. And so finally I sent them a note and said, who are you people and what are you doing with my app? Because it's different. You're using it in group environments, and that's not how it was designed. What can I do to help you? And I got this very pleasant response back that it was a group of gerontologists led by Debbie Dodds out in California who was using my apps to help people with memory loss. And so in a library environment, they were sitting down with the tablets, with a caregiver or with someone helping who was already familiar with the app, and they were telling stories. And Debbie's done some amazing things. She's even gone to like Google Images and grabbed images off of Google Images to drop into the storytelling. And so once I found out what they were doing, because of my own personal family history, I said, I'm all in. I will do everything I can to help you. And it was the start of a wonderful friendship and introduction to a colleague in Debbie. Timeline-wise, then I released another app called Swaha, 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 Swaha. And that app took a very simple piece of stories, etc., and made it more simple. So with Swaha, you just instantly create and share narrated slideshows from your camera roll. So what do I mean? You just go to your camera roll on your phone, you grab 5 pictures by clicking on 5 or 20 pictures, whatever number you want, and you start telling a story about those photos, and you're striking through to the next picture. You're striking through to the next picture. Oh, wait, I want to go back to the previous picture. And you create a narrated slideshow, and the app records that story over the pictures in the sequence and timing that you're moving to the next or the previous photo. Just I'm trying to make it easier and easier. So all of this was very exciting. I end up with Debbie at something called the American Society on Aging. As I said before, I'm from big technology background. I didn't even know that the American Society on Aging was such a thing. Debbie and I go to Chicago in March. We give a presentation about using tablets to help people with memory loss. And all of a sudden, I'm barraged with questions about what other technologies we can use to help people in the memory care space. And I'm working on a few other things. And we are soon to release a Fitbit-sized bracelet that's going to allow people to monitor and find people when they go for a walk, an unannounced, unplanned walk. I think elopement is the term that most of the long-term care memory care facilities call it. So we can find people. So have geofencing capabilities and the ability to kind of track and monitor people with just a tiny little bracelet. And we're really excited about that. And that's kind of what I've been doing with my retirement for the last couple of years.
Well, and it's exciting on the bracelet. I mean, if it's a Fitbit size, that is significantly less and smaller than what is out there right now. Most of them are just huge. kind of honky bracelets, and not real attractive. And I know that that's something difficult to overcome. But it'll be nice if you're able to make that smaller and more usable. Now, with that, the HeraTrack, you said it'll have the geofencing. Can you explain to people what the geofencing is? Because a lot of people don't know all the the tech terminology out there.
You bet. And I didn't really know that much about geofencing. I just had some notion of it. But so first of all, I do want to say that there's been some really neat things that people have done in this space already. The people that were doing this 3 years ago, 5 years ago, before me and my team. And I always want to tip a cap to them because, when we look at their devices now and we see the size of them, we say, oh my gosh, that's horrible. It's huge. It's ugly. It's gaudy. It's all that was possible a couple of years ago. We're at a point now with technology where there's this notion that we're hearing more and more about called the Internet of Everything. And it's basically your refrigerator is going to send you an email that it's about to break before it breaks. Your car will send you an email saying you need to change the oil, you need to change the fan belts, et cetera. And that's the Internet of Everything. Everything is kind of becoming connected because the batteries are getting smaller and the radio signals are being managed differently. So because of that, we've been able to intelligently dumb down the device, is the way I keep telling my team. I've been a real stickler with everyone, and I've said it can get no larger than this, and the battery life can only get longer. It can't get smaller. And now you can put anything else you want on it. Well, that kind of constricts what you can put. Geofencing. You asked the question about geofencing. It's really cool technology that we did not develop, we're just using, that allows you to draw a fence using Google Earth is a great example. So you've got the map of your home or your neighborhood, and you literally, with on the screen, draw a fence around the neighborhood or around the home, and then it sets up an invisible fence, if you will, so that when this bracelet goes outside the boundaries of that fence, there's an alert sent via an app and or back to a desktop. And so the idea would be with my mom, who's still driving at 85, we might put a geofence around the house. And so anytime Mom leaves the house, we just get a message that Mom's left the house. And on Sundays, we might push that out to the church and the grocery store by drawing a different polygon and saving those so that on Sundays we just drop in the Sunday polygon. And so we can kind of track where Mom is. And we're really excited about this. I've got 32 years of technology, which was really is really a dog-eat-dog world. You win or lose. I win, you lose, you win, I lose. And this is something very different. I'm really excited about applying that 32 years of relationships and colleagues and learning to a problem to help people. So we're really excited about that.
So Patrick, if they go outside the fence, people are alerted, but does it track them so people know,
yes.
If they're still wearing the bracelet? And then is that used? I know that there's different ways. Some use radio waves, some use, different things. What type of technology are you using for tracking? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, we're using two different technologies. We're using the Bluetooth and the radio, and it's not, when I say Bluetooth, it doesn't mean that someone needs to have a cell phone in their pocket. There's about 3 or 4 things that are really critical that haven't been done before, and we think we've kind of whipped all of those. One of them is the size. As you said before, everything is so big. So we've got the size down. We've got the battery life for more than a month, which is really wonderful. We can track up to 5 miles or so, even more than that, actually. And you don't have to have a cell phone attached to the person. They don't need to have a phone in their purse or pocket, no cellular bill associated with it. So that's all really critical stuff. And then as you asked, can you track? Yes, you can monitor someone. And the technology is really cool. Even if the person goes outside the 5 mile range, and you go to the 5 mile range where they were last tracking, you can maybe pick up their signal again, so you can kind of keep leapfrogging ahead. But the idea is that we actually get to someone before. You know, it's wonderful that we have silver alerts. I think that's just amazing. And now I want to get to the fact that we never have those, right? We never have the need for them. So I want to be able to send the signals off and the alerts, you know, before or as someone's approaching the barrier. And the barrier doesn't have to be as small as a home or neighborhood. It could be much larger if you want it.
Okay. So when you were saying, like, if they went outside the 5 mile radius, if they widened their fence, would that give them another 5 miles then? Is that how it works?
No, it does. Well, it's a great idea. And in time, we'll be able to go beyond 5. It's actually a little longer than 5 miles, but let's say 6 miles. In time, we'll be able to go past that with different radio signals. But again, I'm the one that keeps telling everyone it's got to be a certain size. It's got to be a certain size. So it starts to constrain things, right? I would love to have a 60, 90, 120-year-long battery life, but now that thing's as big as your fist. So that doesn't work, right? So it's in order to hit kind of the magic, inflection of size, battery length, no need for cell phone, et cetera. 5-6 miles is about the extent. Now, we could put another radio signal, further receiver at a 5 mile perimeter around an area, and then you could go 5 miles from that. But that starts to get kind of complicated for people to comprehend. But some of the long-term care facilities we're talking about will put the little receivers all around the perimeter of their facilities. And then they'll have more than 5 miles from any person's bedroom, and that's a different thing than in-home care. But we'll have this for the HeraTrack will be for in-home and for long-term care facilities, memory care facilities.
Okay, and is that being beta tested now, or is that actually out there to be purchased?
It's beta tested. It's not to be purchased yet. The name is HeraTrack, HeraTrack. And if you go to our website, you can send us a message, and we'll keep you updated. We're working with some amazing. This is what's just so incredible about this space. We started this thing, and the folks at Kindle Corp in Ohio have just really leaned in to help us a tremendous amount. And they know the memory care space very well. I think they've got 15 facilities in that part of the country, and they've been amazing helping us. And then I guess I probably shouldn't say there's another group in Houston associated with one of the universities here in Houston, and I probably shouldn't use their name because they haven't given me permission. And they are one of the biggest names in the gerontology space, and they're also helping us out. So we've got 2 others. One's very, very large West Coast memory care company, and then one is a Colorado-based. Not small at all, actually. They've got 50 or 70 facilities, I think. So we've been really blessed that people have offered to spend time helping us, because I don't know what this software should look like in a long-term care facility. I know what it should look like at my mom's house and with my siblings. But having someone in groups that work every day and have worked for 20, 30 years in the space really helps us to create what we need.
Okay. I'm going to just pull Harry in, and we've had conversations on tracking systems and things before. Harry, what are your thoughts with the HeraTracking, it being, smaller in size and, battery life up to a month, and the 5 miles, with the fencing and things, and then not having the person having to have a cell phone on them? What are your thoughts, Harry?
I love technology. I spent 38 years in the printing industry in the technology field. So I grew up with technology. I also realize that technology is very complicated, and it's complicated for us living with this disease. And it's expensive. A lot of times a very nice gadget comes out that does everything we want it to do, but it's too expensive to use. I mean, we're in a fixed budget, so when this new technology comes out, it has to be inexpensive. That's one of the biggest things that I look at. With apps, I love apps. I would love to see more apps created for a better quality of life for someone living with dementia. I would like to see apps that have video communication, that a long-distance caregiver can communicate with the loved one. Now, I know there's some apps out now, but people don't know about them. I would like to see an app that monitors maybe your blood pressure, so when somebody living with this disease, the anxiety level goes up, that it sets up some kind of a warning that somebody's having a problem, things like that. I would love to see more apps like that being created. The tracking apps are necessary. I mean, they're wonderful. And I think they're getting better and better, and I love seeing that.
Okay, great. Patrick, any comments from what Harry said?
So on the pricing issue, I think we're okay there, Harry. Everyone we've discussed our pricing model with has been a bit surprised that we've been able to push the cost down. And a big chunk of that is that we don't have to tie to a cell phone. And so we don't have to incur the cost of that monthly charge. So I think we're going to be okay on that. And obviously, as our company grows, we'll be able to manufacture cheaper and cheaper the same devices because we'll be building at scale. And so we'll be able to push those costs down. And in terms of apps, we're working on a couple of other ones that we've been guided by some of the people that we've been introduced to. And I think one of the challenges that we've had historically in technology for this longevity space is that people working in it didn't really understand what was going on in the longevity space. So, when I was 30, I was in technology, but I didn't know anything about what it's like to try to navigate this space. And now that I'm 54, and my parents are of the age, my dad's recently passed, but my mom's of the age and her peers, I have a lot more exposure and experience around memory loss, and I still have the ability to bring technology to it. So I think we're seeing some changes there. And then Lori, when you bring someone in like what Debbie's done out in California and Washington State, and has created this environment with these simple tablets. She's got a couple of apps that run on, mine's one of them, that run on these tablets, and then she trains people to sit down with the caregiver, or trains caregivers to sit down with the person who's struggling with memory loss. And she has a program, and that's so important, right? Because some of this stuff gets really confusing, and if you've got someone sitting next to you to walk you through the program, and they're well-versed in the program and how to deliver it to someone with memory loss, then we're starting to see some real magic happen. And that's not just technology, right? I mean, my technology that I've built with Swaha and Stories, et cetera, does some good stuff. But without people like Debbie to step in and make a difference there by applying what she knows, being a gerontologist, being educated, and having experience of working with people, that's when all of a sudden we've taken a sharp set of knives and we've created some magic in the kitchen, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Which makes a lot of sense. I think you brought up a really good point of, even you being older and now experienced in terms of what it is you're developing. I mean, you just look at it in a whole different light once you're personally in that space and had something to do with it. Kind of that street smarts merges with the brilliance of the technology smarts, and then It really creates a whole different piece there. We'd love to hear from any of our listeners. If you have any questions or comments, again, you can call in at 714-364-4757. That's 364-4757. Or again, feel free to use the chat box too if you're shy. We'd love to hear from you. I want to point out too on our radio page there for this show, you can click on and go directly to Stories, etc. And Swaha and HeraTrack. Is it Hera or HeraTrack, I should say? How do you pronounce that again?
I'm reminded of what my dad used to say. I don't care what you call me as long as you call me to dinner. We call it HeraTrack.
HeraTrack, okay.
And it's pretty exciting, and as are the Swaha and Stories, etc. And this stuff is only going to get better and better with people who have what I call kind of content and experiential knowledge, coming to people like me who have some technology knowledge and explaining, this is why it's important that this thing be this size font. This is why it's important that this app have audio and text instructions instead of just text instructions. Because again, most of us out there that haven't dealt with it don't know about these things. But again, people like yourself, people like Debbie, have done some wonderful things with her program is called Touch Team, and it is not just technology. It's not just apps. It's apps and people, but it's not even apps and people. It's apps and people with awareness, right, around the technology and awareness around the disease itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have to ask you how you come up with your names. The Stories, etc., that makes sense to me. But I'm just thinking from a marketing standpoint, because my mind always goes there in terms of, I'm always looking for the association to make it easier for people to remember. So how did you come up with Swaha and HeraTrack?
Well, in the land of technology, every bloody name is already taken. So it's really hard to come up. Like initially, I wanted Stories, etc., to be called My Legacy. MyLegacy.com was for sale for something like $80,000, and I suggested to the lady that she should keep the name because I couldn't buy it for $80,000 for a free app that I was giving away for free. So Stories, etc., came from a friend of mine who said, well, it's not just stories, it's more than just stories. So Swaha, I'm excited about the name. I think it's lovely. Swaha is a Sanskrit name, actually, that literally translates to well said. And the idea is at the end of a mantra, the word Swaha is said, and it's kind of like the Latin amen or amen. It's to send off the message, send off the prayer. And I love the notion of well said. And so that's how we got to that. And people, when they learn the name, it kind of starts to stick like glue to them. HeraTrack comes from the Greek goddess Hera, of family and kind of home and protection. And so that was the idea there. And that's how complex my brain works. Pretty simple.
Okay, well, it makes sense. I mean, I knew there was a story behind them, and so it's always interesting to hear, where it came from, and that it wasn't somebody's initials that you just pulled out of the air, that said we all worked on this, so we'll take our first initial.
Not personalized. Not personalized at all.
And stuff. So it's very interesting. In terms of the Stories, etc., what kind of response are you getting from people on that? I would just think that would be really precious to be able to kind of go and interview your parents or your family, even your little kids. Would be just a lot of fun as they're growing up,
Yeah, Lori, the kids honestly don't have the temperament or patience for Stories, etc. They really gravitated to Swaha. Because you can take a picture and they can immediately start talking, and there's an immediate product, right? That story, that narrated slideshow is there, and they can enjoy it immediately. So the kids have really gravitated towards that. And heck, I use that thing almost as a tool. I did some work around my house, and I was taking photos and telling the contractor where I wanted sconces moved and outlets moved and and switches on the wall and all kinds of things, because it's just a communication device that anybody can use. It doesn't have to belong only in the memory care space. But when you hear some of the stories that Touch Team and Debbie are doing with Stories, Etc. and Swaha, and how these recorded stories, these life legacy stories, is the way I think of them, I think there's several things that are going on, and one of this part gets me a little choked up sometimes. One of the things that really strikes me when the onset occurs and the memory starts to fail is the dehumanization of that beautiful human being, that beautiful person. And I know this from my experience with my uncle, that the people in the long-term care facility, in the memory care facility, they had a different notion of who my uncle was, because when he showed up, he was not the man that I knew. And they saw him as sometimes cranky, and all the other, I don't want to go through it all, but all the other, personality traits and physical traits of someone who's really struggling with memory loss. And if we had Stories, Etc. and Swaha at the time, they could have seen on the tablet that this was a brilliant, beautiful human being who had given a lot and had created a lot of goodness in the world, because they would have seen and heard some of his stories. And Debbie talks about packing your bags for a journey. Every time you go somewhere, you pack your bags, and you take the appropriate things when you pack your bags for the journey. And Debbie talks about packing your bags with memories for this part of the journey. And that really melts me, because I realize just how important it is for the generations to come, for my great-grandkids who I may never meet, to see my laugh and smile in a video in my eyes and hear my voice on an audio and video, because there will be a time where one of my great-grandkids whom I never meet may say, "Oh my gosh, look, Jimmy, you've got Uncle Pat's, or great-great-Uncle Pat's, or great-grandpa Uncle Pat's, laughter, or his voice, or his eyes." And these things are precious, I think. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite stories around this, Lori, is Debbie talks about a story of a lady who was going through, she was having some health issues, nothing critical, but she was at the emergency room. And she was quite distraught and becoming more and more anxious as that morning went on, right? I mean, we all get that way in the ER. She was out of sorts, and she was quite anxious. And the caregiver pulled out the tablet and started going through some of the stories that this lady had recorded before. And it really brought her down. It really started bringing her down. Hearing her voice and seeing some of these stories and maybe having a glimpse of recollection in some of this was magic. And, when I hear things like that about an app that I created, I'm done. I will do anything I can to help people in this space if we can continue to create goodness like that.
Mhm. Well, that is wonderful to hear. We need more people like you out there. That's for sure. It's a great space to be in, and it's just endless, the needs that are out there, and and the creativity. And one of the things that I really appreciate about you, Patrick, is you taking your talent and your skill and moving it, in another direction, to help others. And I think when, one of the problems I see in this industry is that people try to force people to do things that they're not talented or interested in because it's their job. and then it doesn't get done well. But when you match the two, that's when, to me, that's where the brilliance occurs. And then it doesn't really feel nearly like work, because you're just getting so much satisfaction at utilizing your skills and being able to make a difference. And I think that's something that needs to be done much more than it is right now, in people really understanding the value of what they personally can bring to the table. It doesn't have to look like anything else anyone has ever done before. It's what do you have? What do you have that can make the difference? And I don't think that message. I don't think we're screaming it from the mountaintops that much. We're still screaming, look like the other guy, copy what they're doing and call it your own, and instead of just really creating something new and better that taps into your own depths and passion. And to me, that's kind of where the heart and the soul of changing a culture or changing a system or changing if it's a belief system or whatever it is or a process, that's where it really occurs, and sometimes we overlook that for far too long. I'm going to go ahead and it looks like we've got a caller on the line here from a 831 number. You are live and on the air. Do you want to state your name and ask your question or make your comment?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Debbie Dodds, and I do know Patrick and do work with his program. So I just thought I would call in and talk a little bit about some of the good work that people are doing with stories.
Wonderful. Well, we'd love to hear what you have to say, Debbie, and exactly how you're using it. Patrick kind of filled us in a little bit, but it's always good to get it from the horse's mouth on what's going on out there and how it's working. So feel free to fill us in.
So I use I'm just going to talk to Swaha right now because it's completely simple, and when I work with caregivers and people with memory loss, so I like to work with the dyad to help them communicate and create a better relationship. So I use a program like that along with many others. But specifically with Swaha, it's so easy that you don't need to spend a lot of time memorizing the steps or having a lot of things with you. You can use it in many different ways. So I end up with what I call a narrative story. And a narrative story is just someone talking over pictures. It can be a conversation between you and your care recipient or your loved ones. It can be you speaking to them. And one of the things I think is really wonderful is that we could actually source pictures that we don't have. So some of the stories that people like to tell and the memories they have, you don't always have pictures for those. But you can go to Google image search and get pictures of the town, the mountains, the flowers, the type of dog, whatever it is, and talk about that. And it's that process of having the visualization along with the reminiscence that's really wonderful. And just one other point is, I think as we age, older folks don't always want to be on video. I think the easiest thing to do is, sit down and let's take a video of you. But they don't always like that, and as the disease progresses with memory loss, you don't always recognize yourself. So there you go.
Okay. Well, good. With the Swaha, for people to remember, that is the one where you can download pictures and you talk, and then you just swipe to kind of get to the next picture, but it's recording the voice and the picture at the same time. So you're really kind of doing almost like a little video or PowerPoint type presentation, except it's, from what I hear, it's just extremely simple to use. And Patrick, if I'm not mistaken, you can kind of switch that out and move photos around too. You can do some editing with it. Is that correct as well?
No.
It's not.
To go straight to it. Yeah. So everything you said is spot on, except the editing. So what we're doing is we're taking photos from your camera roll, or as Debbie said, you could go to like Google Images and take some iconic, maybe 1940s, 1930s, or maybe even vacation places, right? We went to Yellowstone, and here's the picture of the Yellowstone sign when we were back there in the 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, and then tell the story, creating a narrated slideshow by striking through to the next picture, the next picture, the next picture, go backwards, go forwards as you're talking. And the app is syncing the images to the story that you're telling by the way of you striking through to the next or the previous image. Now, editing, so we actually created a video file, right? It's a narrated slideshow, but it's actually a video file that you can then save and share, or keep private. You don't even have to share it if you don't want. The reason we don't have editing is because they're so easy to make, and editing is so difficult with a video that we would rather you just delete and start over than do any editing. And we may put some editing where we can caption stuff later, but that all costs money and takes time and doesn't add a huge amount of value, I don't think, to the process. And we're trying to keep the complexity out and the simplicity in.
Okay, great. Is I sorry for misspeaking on the editing. Is that something that you would ever consider? Or I'm thinking it's almost simple enough just to redo versus to try to go in and edit from the process itself.
I think if Debbie's on the line, she could probably answer that as well as I could. Debbie, you still out there?
I am. Yeah.
Is editing necessary on Swaha, you think?
You know, really for this particular use, what we're talking about, a good story is 2 to 4 minutes. So it's so much easier just to redo it. And when I'm working with folks, I always say, you know, don't try and get it perfect. If we don't like it, just erase it. And that relieves so much pressure from people. So a lot of times it'll take, 3 tries to get the story you want. And sometimes it's just the first try. It's very simple.
Okay. Well, and that's what I was thinking after I said that. It's like, this isn't something long, and that just thought of editing and trying to do and undo and tweak and timing. I mean, that can be really stressful for people, so I can see where it would just be easier to just start fresh. Give yourself another shot at it versus trying to, stitch something together.
And I always encourage everyone, I'm sorry, I walked over you. I always encourage everyone just to fire and forget. Just tell the story, push the save button, and move on. Did you say 3 times in it? Who cares? You're human. Get the story. Get the story. Don't lose the story. Move on. And I don't think I've ever gone back and listened to one of my stories after the first tests we did on any of these apps, because I don't want to listen to myself talk. But I think that people in coming behind me and my children's children may certainly care about it.
Well, and I think, even with this show, I always do them live, and people go, well, don't you edit? And I'm like, no. Even if if somebody's line gets dropped, you call back in. It happens all the time on our cell phone. It's real life. It's nothing anyone should be embarrassed about. It just happens. And, I'm a firm believer that no matter what you say, somebody out there needed to hear it, or you needed to release it, and it served a purpose. And, just to move forward with stuff. I have a philosophy that done is better than perfect. Sometimes we try to tweak things, and it's just, it's a procrastination of really getting, moving forward and making progress. And, we can't see what works or doesn't work if we never get it out there. So, just lay it on the table and get some feedback and utilize it and go from there. And I think, like Debbie, it sounds like you found all different types of ways to be able to use Swaha and stories, et cetera. And I think that that's fascinating. Even when we were talking and I had mentioned the kid aspect, I was even thinking of interviewing like small children, just where you because they have such goofy little, sayings or thought process sometimes, I remember watching when I was younger on TV, I can't remember the name of the show, but it was all about what would kids say. And with, was it Lawrence Welk or I don't know, one of the guys, and it was just hilarious. And so I think that these apps can be used in all of our lives in so many fashions. And like Patrick, you said, you used it, to communicate with your contractor, because you had now visual and voice tied together. And, and that's powerful. That's a powerful communication. And it lessens the ability for miscommunication. And, it allows us to have that the reminiscent piece in there, but also that voice inflection that is so important to be able to help people, read where you're coming from. So I think kudos to all this, and I'd love to see these utilized far and wide with people. And with apps, we can just carry, like you said, we can carry them all on our phone, or our iPads, whatever. It's just right there, and you can't get cheaper than free, so people can't use that as an excuse either with this. Debbie, do you see other uses for these applications other than what we talked about?
One of the interesting things that we've discovered in working with these is, that it is actually fun to do. It's an enjoyable time to create a memory. There's a real intense engagement that happens with tablets. And when you have somebody with memory loss, often the storage and recall is the first to go. So if you listen to the story you created a week ago, you might not remember creating it if you have memory loss, but you still enjoy it. And the more you listen to it, what I'm noticing with people is they are able to reminisce even farther than they were the first time. It will bring up different memories that they'll add to it, just in discussion. So I think it's fun to do. I think it's fun to listen to, and I think it can also last after your ability to create that diminishes.
Mhm. Okay. Wonderful. Anything else that you wanted to add, Patrick?
A couple of things. One, just kind of the Swaha in general is so stories, etc. You don't have to answer the questions we put to you. If you have a story you want to tell, you can just push a button and record and save that story as well. And then with Swaha, if you think about any time you've ever gone to a party or a vacation, what do you do when you come back and you have your tablet or your phone in your hand and you're telling someone about it? You're literally sitting down with them and swiping to the next photo as you're telling them about the photos. That's what Swaha is. It's just, basically using some technology to do what we do in the kind of offline world. And then additionally, and this is the biggest piece to me, I think that this long-term care memory space that I've now found myself in has lots of special people, and they are appearing because every day I go out and look for someone else to help me help others. And Debbie started this. I would have never been doing I wouldn't be on this phone call. I wouldn't be on your radio program if it weren't for Debbie doing what she's done. And there are other people out there, I guess these purple angels who are out there making a difference. The people at Kindle have been amazing in helping us get the HeraTrack designed. And so I think what we need to do is just continue to every single day consciously try to go make a difference. And when we do that, people show up to help us make a difference because they are every day consciously trying to make a difference. And I think there are a lot of us out there, and we are finding each other 1 and 2 and 3 at a time, as opposed to just going through some huge collective and all showing up. And Lori, I think you're one of those. Appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you. I have a question for you with the stories, etc. in Swaha. Are those, once you create them, are they shareable or are they just on your application?
Yes and no. So stories, etc. They still are just on your app for now. Actually, you can share them. I guess you can share them in a fairly rudimentary, but via email. And we're working towards basically creating an entire library where people will be able to collaborate at a storybook and bookshelf level with groups and families. So that's something that's coming in the future. But Swaha is already built in with one button. You can push it to an email, a message, Facebook, Twitter, oh my gosh, all those things that are out there if you want to share all those stories. And so that's why, Lori, we're finding people even using it for marketing purposes for their businesses, et cetera.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. I'm going to pull Harry back in here real quick. And Harry, how you doing? You still with us?
Yep, you struck in the question I was going to ask if the files can be shared. All old people are storytellers, and we have a responsibility of passing down the knowledge that we have. Like, I'm a big storyteller. I love telling stories. I love telling the stories of the Iceman coming down the streets in a horse-drawn cart with big blocks of ice and having the ice box and things like that. And people nowadays have no idea what I'm talking about, but that's reality. We live that. I've never used Swaha, but it's on my list to try out for sure. And I would love to see that if it's not already built in, that you could share the files. And I'm sure you can find a way to do that.
So, Harry, you can absolutely share the files in Swaha. There's several different ways to go about doing it. There is a 3-minute tutorial video on the app. When you go download the app, the first story that you see already saved for you is a 3-minute show and tell on how to use the app. And Harry, I think you hit on one of the most important aspects of this in terms of the story itself. People say, "Oh, my granddaddy was a great storyteller, but I'm not great at storytelling." And I tell them, your granddaddy may or may not have been a great storyteller. His stories were great. And it's the difference between your granddaddy growing up in 1900 and 1910 and you living now. And Harry hit on the perfect example of that. My 22-year-old son, who's a really bright kid, can never get his brain around the fact that people used to deliver milk in a bottle to the back door and still make a profit. He cannot figure that out. And so when he hears that story, the difference in time, the difference in technology, the difference in life makes that an amazing story to him.
One other thing, too, a lot of people say, I wish I could bake, or I could make the roast beef that Grandma used to make. She used to make the best. I think a program like this could be passed down those recipes that Grandma used to make. Now, is there a size requirement or a time limit requirement on how long this story can be?
No, not really. I think that each story in Swaha caps at 10 minutes, I think. But I don't think anybody's ever recorded a 10-minute story.
That's something else I learned through this is, and Debbie said this earlier, I never would have realized that you can say a whole lot in 2 minutes. 2-minute stories are really, actually, it's quite a long story. In 3 minutes starts to get too long. So I think 10 minutes is the max. 20 photos is the max. But you could always, if you were trying to put together a recipe and instructions on how to bake bread, you could do 2 5-minute or 2 10-minute stories back to back, right? The beginning and the baking, if you would.
Sure. Well, and, with our attention span these days, too, most people aren't going to stick around that long for things. So, they want something short and simple as well. So I think that has to play into the equation, in terms of where society is these days with things. But, this has been fascinating to learn more about your app, stories, etc., Swaha and HeraTrack. And I wish you all the luck in the world with these, Patrick. And please let us know when HeraTrack hits the markets and when you release it. I know you're in the beta testing right now. And for our audience, don't miss out on being able to go get these apps for free. Again, Stories, etc., and that's ETC. You don't have to spell the whole thing out. And then Swaha, SWAHA, and then HeraTrack is HERA, and then track. And you'll get more information when you go to the websites on those. Debbie, are you open to giving contact information out for yourself if someone is interested in learning more on how you're applying these and maybe talking offline?
Sure, yeah. I think a good email for me would be thetouchteam@gmail.com.
Okay, thetouchteam@gmail.com. Okay, wonderful. And then Patrick,
Lori, let me add to that. If anyone, so I know my email address is on your site. If anyone wants to get in touch with Debbie and loses the contact info, holler at me. I will forward it to Debbie. Debbie's doing amazing things, and I want to keep the wind underneath that as much as I possibly can.
Okay. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you all for joining us today. This afternoon we will be doing our dementia chats, and always look forward to having those shows as well. Those are webinars. They start at 3 o'clock Eastern Time, 2 Central, 1 Mountain, and noon Pacific Time, and 8 o'clock if you're over in Europe. And we would love to have you join us. You can just go to AlzheimerSpeaks.com, and you'll find information. You can find it either on the home page, or you can go to our About page in terms of how to enter. Again, the Dementia Chats features, in fact, Harry is one of our experts living with dementia you'll be able to talk to. We have an open agenda, so come with your questions or comments, and we're just kind of free-flowing and chat for an hour. We record those, and people can go ahead and view those later as well. If you didn't hear our last radio show, that was on it was a really interesting conversation with Cameron Camp, who is the Director of Research for the Center for Applied Research in Dementia, and we talked about the Alzheimer's syndrome, and what would it be like if syndrome versus a disease, and he compares it to Down syndrome, and it's really quite interesting in terms of how society views things and what we do and how we try to help in different fashions and the impact that it has. So it's pretty thought-provoking. Our next radio show will be on the 22nd, and we are going to have a couple of sisters who created puzzle pieces of the past, and we are also going to have a doctor with us representing the Alzheimer's team who's going to be talking about trials and dementia in general, and so we're very excited for that show next week, the same time. As always, if you have peeked at the blog at all lately, there's I did an article called "An Amazing Lady Leading the Charge Against Dementia," and it's about Mara Botanis, who is a good personal friend of mine, but she received the National Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Award out in D.C., so well deserved for all of her hard work in terms of shifting our dementia care culture. Just a humble woman doing great things. She wrote a book, "When Caring Takes Courage," that not only will you relate to it, but it's almost like 3 different books in one, because it has tools in it that will help guide you as well as the disease progresses. So take a peek at that video. Have some Kleenex with you, because it's pretty emotional. And then I also did an article on celebrating independence no matter what our circumstances are, and just looking at life a little bit different. And I want to thank everybody for those who have gotten behind the Purple Angel project and helped with the Kickstarter program for the documentary. That fundraiser is now closed, and they'll be coming over probably this fall to do some shooting to show what all is happening over here in the U.S. So pretty exciting times. And let's see, what else do I want to give a holler out to? Again, if you want to help reshape Alzheimer's treatments, go to alzheimersspeaks.com, and on the front page you will find information on a clinical trial. You can just click on the graphic that says you can make a difference for your loved one with Alzheimer's, or on the right side there's also I don't know what you call it, another graphic that says, do I pre-qualify? And you can actually go through a questionnaire to find out, will you qualify for a clinical trial? So last, I just want to give a shout out. I'm going to be going to Illinois, and I'll be speaking on the 6th. And if you want more information, again, you can find that on our homepage. I would love to be able to meet up with you. I appreciate all of you and your support, so thank you so much for another great program. And Patrick Talley, best of luck with your technology that's making a difference. We'll talk to you next week.